Carolina Hurricanes are facing a Game 7 again, this time against the New York Rangers. Jared Ellis of Locked On Carolina Hurricanes is here to talk about his team and what's the big difference between their play at home and on the road in these playoffs. All that and more coming up on the Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Locked On NHL podcast. Gil Martin, glad to be with you as I am every Monday as we talk about the biggest stories from around the National Hockey League. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. And we want to thank everyone for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Right now, it's my pleasure to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On Carolina Hurricanes, Jared Ellis. And Jared, no shortage of drama concerning your team so far this year in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's been a playoff where I'm running out of things to say because it's just at home they look great. On the road, they look like a team that has never played a National Hockey League game before.
What do you think is the root cause of this difference between their play at home and on the road? I mean, okay, last change, the crowd, but it can't be that simple, could it?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of things that go into it. I feel, the games 3 and 4 in Boston, okay. I kind of figured we'd probably drop one or both of the games there. In Game 6 rolls around there, we lose that. Game 3 and 4 against New York, we lose that. And now Game 6, we lose that again. And I do feel part of it is not having that home ice. That was a big advantage. Obviously, they're undefeated at home. They're 7-0 at home, 0-6 on the road. Crazy step. But I think part of it is not having home ice. Another part of it, I think it's a mental thing at this point. It's I think that they are letting the away crowds or home crowds, I guess, in the case of New York or Boston, get in their heads a little bit. The chants, against the other team, the boos, or I'm not 100% sure what's going on here. It's very odd that the first team ever to lose the first 6 road games in the playoffs ever. So I'm not 100% sure what's going on because, like I said, they look like a completely different team. It's not like it's coming down to 1 or 2 goals or something like that. It's not like it's a tight contested game or anything like that. The other team has clearly been the better team in all of those road games.
And yet, during the regular season, 29 wins at home, 25 wins on the road. They were a good road team throughout the year.
Yeah, and that's another weird thing because if they were a bad road team in the regular season, then okay, maybe I understand it a bit more. Doesn't mean I like it anymore, but I at least understand it because they didn't play well on the road. But the thing is, they were one of the best road teams all year long, and now to do a complete 180 in the playoffs, I don't know what's going on. And they're really letting the other teams get under their skin when they're on the road. Tony DeAngelo is a prime example of that with the study he's pulled. There was the thing of him throwing his stick at Brad Marchand. Him and I forget who it was in either game 3 or 4 going at it after the game ended. He's a guy, his emotions are getting the better of him, and he's got to get that stuff under control. Other guys there as well. Max Domi's the guy that has done some stuff that he shouldn't after whistles after the game. They got to get out of their own head, and don't let the other team and don't let the opposing crowd get in your head either.
Talk to me about Antti Ranta. I mean, he hasn't been the starting goalie, started 27 games, give or take, during the regular season. Come up pretty big in the playoffs again, especially at home. What has his play meant to this team over the course of the playoffs?
I think it's been really, really big for him to have been playing as good as he has. He got his first career playoff start this postseason. That was big for him, and he's really taken it and ran with it this postseason. Game 6 against New York was really only flat out bad game that he had. He got pulled in favor of Pyotr Kochetkov, and Pyotr, he came in and he looked good. And you kind of expected that from him. He's good in all the games that he played as well. But I think Antti Ranta, he just got in a groove and whatnot. And on the road, stats are definitely not as good as home. But part of that I do chalk up to the team playing poorly in front of him. He can only do but so much. And I feel without him and the stellar play that he's had, maybe the Hurricanes aren't where they are, because there's definitely been some slow starts in these games. And, had he not came up with some really big saves, then maybe we're having this conversation, maybe we're not. He's definitely been a big difference maker.
Yeah, no question about it. A lot of teams rely on superstars for their offense. Everyone's talking now about, Draisaitl and McDavid in Edmonton, for example. But the Hurricanes have a very balanced attack. I mean, there are 5 different players with 4 or 5 goals, but nobody with more than that. Talk to me about the balanced offense this team has had so far in the postseason.
It's a double-edged sword. It's nice that, we have, multiple guys that we have to look out for. It's not like, it's like Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl. All right, Edmonton is going to go to those guys to score goals. So, kind of who you got to watch out for. The Hurricanes, opposite. You got a bunch of guys you got to look out for. So there's that side of it where, okay, you can't just go after 1 or 2 guys. But on the other side of it, it's only 4 or 5 goals, It's not, no one has really taken it and ran with it. That's been an issue past 4 seasons, or 4 postseasons, really, of struggling to score in the playoffs. And, keep thinking that, it's going to be Andrei Svechnikov going to step up, be a big scorer, Sebastian Aho, and all these other guys. And they score clutch goals, and they're still extremely young guys. So, they got plenty of time to grow into those playoff scores. But it's one of those things that you can't win games if you don't score goals. And we need this balanced offense to really play some offense, for lack of a better term. I'm trying to think how to say that. But, I mean, that's kind of what they need to do. The offense needs to get rolling. Power play as well. Power play has really been abysmal since the beginning of March, really, not just the playoffs. And we need these top guys to play like top guys. So you're Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, Teuvo Teravainen, Vincent Trocheck. These are your top guys. These are the guys that you're expected to score goals. And are here and there, but they're not to the extent that they need to.
Game 7 coming up. Talk to me about the keys to victory for the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, 2 of them I just mentioned. Offense needs to step up, power play as well. Punikill has been really great at home, so I'm not super worried about that, but special teams obviously going to be big, of course, but offense stepping up is really going to be big.
All right, Jared, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, we'll see how it goes, but I think having that home ice advantage is really going to be a big factor in there because, again, they are undefeated at home this postseason.
Going for their 8th straight home win. Be nice to get a road win at some point, but let's see how this one falls out in Game 7. Jared, why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers where they could find the podcast and where they could follow you on social media?
Yeah, you can find the podcast wherever you're listening or watching this podcast at, Locked On Hurricanes, all streaming platforms, and on YouTube. And you can find the show on Twitter and Instagram at LO_Hurricanes. Trying to get better about posting the stuff on Instagram, and myself on Twitter at JaredEllis_96.
Jared, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome, sir.
Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. Our partners at BetOnline continue to be the number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, the Stanley Cup Playoffs, Major League Baseball scores, fights, and even next year's NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts.